Long time no see. Since when? April. We had a long break, and I was not sure whether all of you will be here today. That you might remember, but you are very faithful to come and hear the Word of God, and so I'd like to give praise and thanks to God. And today we're going to, I don't know if you remember, but we had a couple of studies on the fifth book, Promise of the Eternal Covenant. And the fifth book in the History of Redemption series speaks about the third portion, third stage, third period of Jesus' genealogy, which is from the deportation to Babylon all the way to Jesus. So this is like the final stretch before the coming of the Messiah in that history. And that final stretch is many people had many great expectations. The Lord, the Messiah, the King will come and overthrow the human regime on this earth and free the Israelites, the Jewish people, and we will live, and he will be the eternal King. But the problem was, right after that, there was no prophecy. No more prophecy, no more Bible studies, so to speak. No more people that claim to be sent by God, prophesying and telling what to do, giving instructions to the kings and the people for about 400 years. And so theologians and scholars call it a time of darkness for two reasons. Time of darkness, number one, because they don't know anything much about it. Not much has been written about that time period in terms of the biblical and Jewish history. And then, secondly, they say it was a time of darkness because spiritually it was a time of darkness because there was not much of prophecy or teaching going on. And people were have you ever lived 400 years before? Or do you remember what happened to your family history or this national history 400 years ago? We barely remember 40 years before. I can barely remember what I did 4 days ago. 400 years went by without much teaching, but Reverend Abraham Park, the author of the History of Redemption series, writes in his book saying it was for the people who are ignorant, people who are not so interested about God's will. It might have been have seemed like a time of darkness, but for God, it was a very busy time. It was a time when it was a turning point, and it is like, have you ever had, we experienced this. Recently we had two great leaders of the world come and visit Singapore. And I was very, very impressed and surprised how calm Singapore was. And very, very well planned. And even on the day, the roads to Sentosa was, controlled really well. Very, very impressed. And the whole world was impressed. But the people who were actually planning and doing the work behind the stages, they were going crazy. Especially the day before, the day of, they were going crazy about how to control the traffic, how to control the crowd, the news press, media people. All these things were really, really happening and really busy. Likewise, this is not President Trump or Kim Jong-un coming. This is God coming down to this earth. And the host of angels and the heavenly realm, God must have been really, really busy and very intense, very nervous. It's Jesus, the Messiah, finally coming ever since the fall of mankind. God promised, there will come the seed. And now the seed is coming. And just imagine how intense and how busy heavenly realm must have been. But on the contrary, his believers, human human beings who are coming and doing what was pleasing to their own sight and all that. I shared this because the time, this very last stretch before the Messiah came, before the first coming, is very similar to the phenomenon that will take place in the end when He will return. Because Jesus told us in Matthew chapter 24, people will be eating and drinking and getting married and doing the regular things, not realizing that He is coming. And so, as we study about the first coming, getting closer to the first coming in this history, let us think about ourselves, our lives. And one of the main things today, in the second hour, we are going to study about the 3 captivities to Babylon and 3 returns. And those are very important. The lecturer will share with you at the end conclusion why it is important. So I should not spoil it for you. But please do stay until the conclusion and learn why it's so important for us to study about the captivities and the return to Babylon and from Babylon. But this first hour, I'm going to share with you what God had told the Israelites and to us through the prophet Daniel about this time, quote unquote, the period of darkness. What was going to happen? God already told the prophet Daniel about this. And I hope that there's nobody who thinks here that the book of Daniel is fictional. Do you agree with me here that Daniel was real, historical? This is the Word of God, Bible, right? Right? Because, believe it or not, majority of Christians nowadays, or theologians, think that Daniel was a story that was written after all these things happened. And I say, why do you read the Bible and why do you believe in Jesus if you're going to start doubting about the Bible every chapter? So let us turn to, first before we get into Daniel, let us turn to Romans. Romans chapter 8, verse 28. This is like a theme verse for today's study, for this first hour. And we know that God causes all things to work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. Do you love God?
Amen.
Amen, right? And so, even if currently there might be something happening that we might not like, something that we feel like it's a punishment, something that we might feel like it's a curse or it's agony, it's suffering and affliction, God can use that for His purpose and for His good and for our good. Amen. And so He is able to turn around history, and I don't know if you believe this, but I believe it for sure. In the end time, which we are living in, God will move and change even the entire world history for those who have the Word of God. Do you believe that? If you hold on to the Word of God, God will change even the whole universe. God will operate the universe to bless you and to save you. Amen?
Amen.
Do you believe that?
Amen.
You might think, oh, just for me?
Yes.
Yes. Why not? Right? Why not? Because God is looking for, Jesus said in Luke chapter 18, verse 8, when I come back, will I be able to find faith? It's going to be very rare. People who really hold on to the Word of God and trust and believe in Him. And so let us go to Daniel. Daniel chapter 2. This is actually a dream that King Nebuchadnezzar had. And this is after the first batch of people were taken to Babylon. Okay? And we will learn about that in the next hour. But King Nebuchadnezzar, Daniel was taken, and we know the story about Daniel. He was taken, it was one of the elite, very smart children that were the boys that were taken, so he was being trained by the palace, by the king's satraps, and he was to be trained to become a governor or a leader in the nation. And Daniel was there, and King Nebuchadnezzar had a dream, and he forgot about the dream. And so he gathered the magicians, sorcerers, all the counselors of Babylon, and he said, okay, I had a dream, but I forgot. But I want you to remember it for me. And if you remember it and interpret it for me, I'll reward you. But if not, I'll kill you and your family. Anybody want to be a volunteer? And so that happened. Of course, nobody was able to tell him his dreams, and King Nebuchadnezzar was about to kill them and their families. And Daniel comes up and he says, he asks the counselor, the satrap, and asks him to tell the king, if I can tell him, the king, the dream and interpret it, can you save those people's lives too? And so he prays, and God gives him, God shows him the dream. So here, this part is just me, not the Bible. I'm thinking, God must have given Daniel a new dream and convinced Nebuchadnezzar to think, oh, yeah, that's my dream. So I say that because I want to believe that this dream, this vision is given to Daniel, not to Nebuchadnezzar. But that's just me, okay? Let us get back to the serious matter, verse 31. You, O king, were looking, and behold, there was a single great statue. That statue, which was large and of extraordinary splendor, was standing in front of you, and its appearance was awesome. The head of that statue was made of fine gold, its breast and its arms of silver, and its belly and its thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. You continued looking in until a stone was cut out without hands, and it struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay and crushed them. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were crushed all at the same time and became like chaff from the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, so that not a trace of them was found. But the stone that struck the statue became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. Here's the interpretation. Verse 36. This was the dream. Now, I think it's kind of comical how Daniel is telling the king, this was your dream, okay? This was the dream. Now we will tell its interpretation before the king. You, O king, are the king of kings, to whom the God of heaven was given the kingdom of the power, the strength, and the glory. And wherever the sons of men dwell, or the beasts of the field, the birds of the sky, he has given them into your hand, and has caused you to rule over them all. You are the head of gold. Okay? So this is the interpretation. And then verse 39, after you, there will arise another kingdom inferior to you, then another third kingdom of bronze, which will rule over all the earth. And many people, many theologians just cannot take the fact that God told Daniel about this before it happened. They said, no way. He must have written it after he saw all these things happening. Why? Because in Daniel chapter 2, okay, you have the head of gold. Okay. And what was next? Breast and arms
Of silver.
of silver. Okay. And then
Belly and
belly
of bronze.
and thighs of bronze. Okay. And then legs of iron. And
Feet.
excuse me, feet of iron and clay. Is this green color okay for you to see? Is this visible? And Daniel interpreted it, saying, the head of gold is you, Nebuchadnezzar, who is the king of Babylon. Okay? And then he said, there will arise another kingdom inferior to you. And according to history, another kingdom was Medo-Persia. And then after that came Alexander the Great, Greece. After Alexander the Great died, Greece turned into 4 kingdoms. After that, Romans took over. After Rome, until the end time, until the later time, many nations, I'll just write nations will rise up. And then the Antichrist figure, and Jesus Christ, love of heaven. And this was prophesied and shown to Daniel not only once, but 3 times. So let's turn to Daniel chapter 7 also. Daniel chapter 7. We'll read from verse 1. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel saw a dream and visions in his mind as he lay on his bed, and then he wrote the dream down and related the following summary of it. Verse 2. Can you see? Daniel said, I was looking in my vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of heaven were stirring up the great sea, and 4 great beasts were coming up from the sea. This is important because in Revelation, there's a great beast coming out of the sea, coming out of the earth also. Right? In Genesis, there are beasts. There are beasts everywhere. And Psalm 49 verse 20 tells us, Psalm 49 verse 20, man in his pomp, but without understanding are like beasts that perish. Right? And so this can be a prophecy. And verse 3, and 4 great beasts were coming up up from the sea, different from one another. The first was like a lion and had the wings of an eagle. I kept looking until its wings were plucked, and it was lifted up from the ground and made to stand on 2 feet like a man. A human mind also was given to it. So, which in Daniel chapter 7, Daniel chapter 7. Lion. By the way, has anybody been to Berlin? Berlin, there's a museum called Pergamos Museum. And when you go there, I don't know if they still have those artifacts there, but some of the artifacts from Babylon. And they have statues of lions with kind of bluish tile kind of color and a lot of gold. Back there, Babylon was known for using a lot of gold for decorating and covering their palaces, and the lion was their symbol, the strength. And lion was the king of the jungle, king on the ground. with wings of eagle, right? With eagle. Eagle is the king of the sky, right? So in today's terms, it would be like Army and Air Force. The most powerful Army and Air Force kind of thing. Please do not relate to any nation, any present nation. I'm not going to go there. Okay? But lion with wings of an eagle. So just imagine how powerful the nation must have been. And then the second beast is verse 5. And behold, another beast, a second one resembling a bear. And it was raised up on one side, and 3 ribs were in its mouth between its teeth. And thus they said to it, Arise, devour much meat. So, a bear-like beast, I'll just write bear, on one side. What did it have? With 3 ribs. Okay? And Medo-Persia, when Medo-Persia, we call it Mede-Persia or Medo-Persia because it was the Medes and the Persians together. Why? Because the king of Mede is the first king after they took over or destroyed Babylon. His name was Darius. Darius lasted less than a year. And then another king named Cyrus took over. The relationship between the two of them, Darius was Cyrus's uncle. And so that's why they joined together as an ally and conquered together. But who's the smarter one? Cyrus was a greater politician, greater military, much smarter. Darius was just a puppet king kind of figurehead. But Darius could not last very long. So within a year, 539 they conquered, and from 538 Cyrus took over. So soon it was not Medo-Persia, it was just Persia. And so bear was on both two legs, but it leaned onto one leg. Darius and Cyrus, they worked together, and they started to lean on one leg. And the great nations that they conquered in history are Lydia, a nation called Lydia, and Babylon, and Egypt. The 3 ribs. The 3 ribs were in its mouth. And so the 3 nations, great nations that Medo-Persia and Persia conquered. And they were known for coining silver coins for the first time. Persians. I don't know if it's really the first, but they were known for their silver. And verse 7, after this I kept looking in the night visions, and behold, verse 6, after this I kept looking, and behold, another one, like a leopard, which had on its back 4 wings of a bird. The beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. And so, Greece, Alexander the Great, leopard, with wings. Okay. What's a special trait about leopard? Fast. Especially with wings, fast. Okay. Alexander the Great. Anybody 22 years of age here? He studied the handsome man that praised earlier was 22. That's when he started conquering the world from 22. And within 10 years, he conquered the whole world. Nicholas, can you do that? You ready? Right. Let us conquer the world with the Word of God, right? But Alexander the Great was smart, fast, and he swiftly went and swept across the whole region and conquered the world. Greece was not a nation. It was a federation of different nationalities. And after his father died, I think Philip something, After his father died, he just went on. The problem was, his ambition was too much. The soldiers were so tired and cold and exhausted, but he still wanted to go on. That's why there's a conspiracy theory that he must have been assassinated by one of his soldiers, one of his generals, because he had 4 generals under him, and he did not pick one successor. And when he died, they say he might have been poisoned to death. And when he died, the 4 generals, Ptolemy, Seleucus, Lysimachus, and Cassander, 4 generals took over different portions of the land, and it was Ptolemy who came and ruled over the regions of Palestine, the regions of Israel. And then Seleucus came over, and they ruled over that region. That history is so exciting in the book, but I don't have enough time. And it's so exciting, but I don't know why every time I teach and go through that history, people fall asleep. So today I decided not to choose to speak. It's very exciting. I don't understand. It's very, very exciting. And by understanding that history, you can really understand the background of where and when Jesus was born. It's like Father dropped his son Jesus in the midst of greatest mess and turmoil and in the center of the enemy line. It feels like. So if you're interested, the book is there. If you want to fall asleep, you can come to one of our church Bible studies and listen to it. And so the 4 generals, and that is here. Verse 6, it says, the beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to him. So the beast with 4 heads. And verse 7, after this I kept looking in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrifying and extremely strong. It's the Romans. Romans came with special strategy of fighting, special new technology even, because they started to use steel, iron, and they were strong. When you imagine Roman soldier, what color do you remember? Red, black, and silver or iron shield, right? And the helmet, right? They came like a dreadful beast, just crushing everything. And before they knew it, it was all conquered by the Romans. It devoured and crushed and trampled down the remainder with its feet, and it was different from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns. It had 10 horns, so it's the dreadful and terrifying. And then 10 horns. Not literally 10 meaning many, multitudes, the nations. Verse 8, while I was contemplating the horns, behold, another horn, a little one, came up among them, and 3 of the first horns were pulled out by the roots before it. And behold, this horn possessed eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth uttering great boasts. And this represents the Antichrist, one horn. And let us skip to verse 24. Verse 23, thus he said, the 4th beast will be a 4th kingdom on the earth, which will be different from all other kingdoms, and will devour the whole earth and tread it down and crush it. Verse 24, as for the 10 horns, out of this kingdom, 10 kings will arise, and another will arise after them, and he will be different from the previous ones, and will subdue 3 kings. He will speak out against the Most High, and wear down the saints of the highest one, and he will intend to make alterations in times and in law, and they will be given into his hand for a time, times, and half a time. Time, times, and half a time, 3.5 years of suffering, right? And so this is a prophecy about the Antichrist figure or figures. We cannot, well, I'm not going to pinpoint, and of course I don't know who, if it's going to be a human being or a nation or what. But what it will do, it will make alterations in times and in law. Alterations, changes. You know, they will reinterpret the Bible, God's times, and say it's not the time when it is the time. It is the time when it's not the time. The laws, interpretation of the Bible. But this is not what it means. It's okay. Changing things, just like the serpent did. Just like the serpent changed the word of God to deceive mankind, there will be changings and alterations. And they will be given into his hands for a time, times, and half a time. And next, let us turn to chapter 8. Vision of the ram and goat. In the 3rd year of the reign of Belshazzar, the king, a vision appeared to me, Daniel, subsequent to the one which appeared to me previously. He's referring to Daniel chapter 7. And I looked in a vision, and while I was looking, I was in the citadel of Susa, which is the province of Elam. And I looked in a vision, and I myself was beside the Ulai canal. Then I lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, a ram which had 2 horns was standing in front of the canal. Now the 2 horns were long, but was longer than the other. One was longer than the other, with the longer one coming up last. Which one? Which nation do you think this is referring to? 2 horns, one becomes longer. Kind of like the bear on one side, right? So this is which animal was that? Ram, right? Ram with 2 horns. I saw the ram butting westward, northward, and southward. And Persia actually went northward to conquer the Arameans and Caspian, the regions near Caspian Sea. That would be, in today's terms, maybe Iran, Turkey, that area. Okay. And then southward to westward was Babylon and Israel, all that region. And then southward to Egypt. No other beast could stand before him. Okay? And then verse 5, while I was observing, behold, a male goat was coming from the west over the surface of the whole earth without touching the ground. And the goat had, how fast do you have to run so that you don't touch the ground? Do you see those cartoons? It's so fast. And the goat had a conspicuous horn between the eyes. Okay. He came up to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing in front of the canal, and brushed him, and in his mighty wrath, I saw him come beside the ram, and he was enraged at him, and he struck the ram and shattered his 2 horns, and the ram had no strength to withstand him. So he hurled him to the ground. Who is that? The Greeks were called the goat people. In verse 8, the male goat magnified himself exceedingly, but as soon as he was mighty, a large horn was broken, and in its place came the 4 conspicuous horns. Right? 4 horns. And verse 9, out of one of them came forth a rather small horn, which grew exceedingly great toward the south, toward the east, and toward the beautiful land. And that is that one horn again. And so, 3 times, God showed Daniel what is to happen in this intertestamental period. So, other than being interested, oh wow, these animals relate to these 4 kingdoms. Other than that, how is this beneficial to the people of God and to us? How is this beneficial? Why did God cause these nations to rule over when Jesus was about to come? First kingdom, Babylon, was used by God to punish His people. Right? Sometimes God uses these Gentiles, the people that are supposed to be bad, to punish His own people. Have you ever punished or spanked your own child before? It hurts. It hurts the parent's heart more than the child's butt. Right? No? Maybe the child will beg to differ. God had to take Babylon to punish the Israelites, to teach them a lesson. Why? 2 Chronicles 36, verse 20 and the following, 21, tells us that the land needed rest for 70 years because they did not keep the Sabbath of God. And so to teach them to become holy, to live a life according to God's will. And so Babylon was used in that way. Now, when God was sending the Israelites away, God spoke through prophet Jeremiah 25. God spoke through him saying, it will be how many years? 70 years. And I will allow you to come back. Okay? 70 years. How is that going to happen when the other nations are ruling over? But God brings Cyrus from Persia, and God even prophesied. Through prophet Isaiah, God prophesied that Cyrus will come and save the nation and bring them back. And so Cyrus did bring them back according to Ezra chapter 1. We'll read later. But what other things happened through Persia is Persia ruled, conquered Armenia, and they ruled over the entire region, the whole world, quote unquote, the whole world during that time. And they unified the language. Cyrus was not, had a very tolerant way of ruling. Before that, Assyria and Babylon, they forced their captives to learn their own language and only use their language. But Cyrus said, you can speak your language if you want, as long as you also speak our language as the main language. Cyrus was thinking about the future, more diplomatic spreading of their influences. And that's why he was able to allow the Israelites to go back and build up their city again, as long as they are linked and attached to Persia. And so that language was, the language spoken by the Persians was Aramean. Not Arabic, Aramean. Aramean language is a cousin language of Hebrew. They can understand each other. It's kind of like the Italians going to Spain, or, the words are a little bit similar, pronounced a little bit differently, but the roots are the same. So if you understand Hebrew, you can kind of understand Aramean. Right? And so the language that was being spoken during the time of Jesus was, have you watched Passion of Christ, the whole movie about Jesus' life? The weird language they are speaking, that's Aramean. They used to speak Aramean during that time. So common language during that time, and therefore they were able to communicate. The word of God was able to go. And then when Cyrus allowed them to go back, that was the first diaspora. When the Israelites were given the permission to go back to their land, the Orthodox, the holy ones, went back. But not all of them went back. Where did they go? Some of them stayed in Babylon saying, hey, we lived here and we rooted down for 70 years. How many generations is 7 years? That's about 3 generations already. Right? My friends that grew up and they were born and grew up in the United States, they don't want to move back to Korea, although it's their own nation or country, their mother's country, right? Because they've been living in that comfortable area for generations after generations. So they say, we have our store, our business here, we have our living here, we don't want to move back, we stay here. Some people said, oh, but I think Asia looks good, so we will move over there. So that was the spreading of the Jewish people throughout the world. One thing is, by that time, they have learned their lesson about keeping the Sabbath and worshiping God wherever they go. Because they were taken into captivity as a result of not keeping the Sabbath, right? So they learned their lesson. So everywhere they went, from that time on, they built synagogues. In the New Testament, Jesus, everywhere, every city he goes, where did he teach? Synagogue. Those synagogues were built during this time. And no matter where you go, there was a synagogue during that time. So it was very convenient. Very convenient. To save time, I won't tell you a story. Very exciting story, but no, I'm just kidding. It's not a very exciting story. So synagogues were there, and those who returned, this is when they said, okay, we are going to focus on the Word of God now. We will never be taken into captivity again. They learned their lesson. Those who came back, this is the first time they hired scribes. You know who scribes were? Before they were taken, Babylonians burned all the manuscripts and Bibles, burned down the temple, right? Now they're saying, we preserved some manuscripts, the Bible. Let us copy them. Let's make many copies. Make sure, even if somebody comes and burns, we have another one. So this is where they brought in the scribes, and this is where when they formed this group called Hasidim. Do you know what Hasidim? Hasidim are the Pharisees during the time of Jesus. Very holy ones that wanted to live according to the Word. Very legalistic, to the law, to the jot and tittle kind of people. And therefore, very condemning of others who did not follow the way of their own life. There were the Hasidim, and then later during the Greek times and Roman times, there came the Sadducees, the Jewish people that are more keen and more interested about politics. They always fight. The Hasidim and the Sadducees always never liked each other. Those secular people, what do you call those? And then these were like those holy and proud people, arrogant people. They were always fighting. Only one time in history they came together. When? When they were discussing about crucifying Jesus. And so the Hasidim came around and isolation of Israel. They said, okay, we are not going to get any secular Gentile influence. We isolate ourselves. Okay? And when they returned, the Samaritans were there. Remember the Samaritans? They were the ones that interfered with the temple reconstruction. The Samaritans were the people, when they were being taken away, they kind of hid, and they went to another Gentile area and got married to other Gentiles. And they acted like, oh, I'm not a Jew, don't take me, kind of thing. And so the Jewish people, when they came back, they hated these people. Because these people forsook their faith. But later on, they restored their faith after they got intermarried with the Gentiles. And they built up a temple there in Samaria. Just like when Rehoboam and Jeroboam, after King Solomon split into north and south, Jeroboam built a temple there at Mount Gerizim. And that's why the Samaritans were worshiping there, and the Jewish people were worshiping in Jerusalem. Remember when Jesus went into Samaria, the Samaritan woman was asking, where do we need to worship? Because there were two separate temples there. It comes from this background. Okay. There's more, but time is running away. So Greece. What did God... So God used the language, the diaspora, the synagogues, as God's tool in the future. Apostle Paul, Jesus, all used that. God, even though they were oppressing His people, God's people, God used them to prepare for the future proclamation of God's word. Greece. Greece was... Alexander the Great was called Alexander the Great for a reason. Because he did not only conquer the land, he wanted to conquer the minds of the people. And so wherever he went and conquered the land, he took his teacher, Alexander the Great's teacher was Aristotle. Right? And wherever he went, he took with him his teachers, philosophers. And when he conquered this town, he set up a school and let those teachers teach these people the language and philosophy, Greek philosophy. And this is called Hellenization. It's kind of like those of us or you who are old enough might know, in the older days, Asia was Asia. Orient, East, and West were very different. And from some time, Koreans started to dye their hair yellow and wear baggy pants and started to walk weird, started to not bow to the adults, and this Western influence started to come in, and everybody wanted to be like Americans. Being like an American is a cool thing, right? And everybody wanted to go to America for the opportunity, learn that language. So Greek, the language, was like English. Everybody wanted to learn Greek because it was a universal language now. And the philosophy, it was much convenient and better, cooler to have the Greek way, Hellenized way. The American dream kind of thing. The Hollywood image, the K-pop image, not K-pop, the Hollywood image. Everybody wanted to be slim, like I don't know, I cannot. Hollywood star, and everybody wanted to be muscular. We Asians are not built to be so muscular like me, but then nowadays they're muscular because they want to be like those sports people in US, right? And so that was the thing. Convenient Agora. Agora is a marketplace. They set up marketplaces. They set up schools, libraries. Alexandria Library in Jerusalem was set up by the Greeks. Right? Everything's very convenient, and the language. But thanks to them, Apostle Paul took advantage. Everywhere he went, the only language he needed to speak was Greek. If I didn't speak English, if God did not give me the grace to send my parents to the United States and let me grow up in the US, even if I wanted to go to different countries and share the Word of God, it would be very difficult. I would have to have a translator, right? But because I know how to speak English, I can speak to most of you even though we're not from the same place, right? That's the advantage of Singapore, everybody. You speak the two greatest languages in the world, right? English and Chinese. If you speak some other language, don't be offended. Other languages are great too. I cannot speak Chinese, I speak Korean. But Anyhow, we are given the privilege to be in the center of the world right now. The Greek philosophy also, Stoicism, dualism, they started to, before, gods were everywhere. Gods were in the building, gods were in the tree. The mind, they could not distinguish the physical and the spiritual. But through the Greek philosophy, people started to realize, oh, God is spiritual, and we are physical. If you take this the wrong way, you become a different heresy. But then Apostle John used it really well, saying God is spirit and we are human beings. We're a physical body. But there is one thing that links, there's a bridge in between. And the Stoics said it's the Logos. And when John used that concept, when he was introducing Jesus, the Spirit, God who is Spirit, is coming as a mediator to become a bridge between us and God who can never meet. But He, the Logos, is coming. And Jesus is the Logos. So this Greek philosophy and concepts were used. And then we'll go to Rome. What time did we begin? What time did we get? About 20. Okay, we'll be quick. Rome. What is Rome known for? Two things. We'll be quick. Rome. Roads. Second, not aqueducts too, but roads. You know, every road leads to Rome kind of thing, right? Because of those roads, Apostle Paul's missionary trips were much easier. It made it faster. And also something known as Pax Romana. Have you heard of that phrase? Pax Romana. Peace under Rome. Rome was so powerful, as long as you're under the Roman Empire, even if you're different nationalities, you're at peace. And you go somewhere and say, I'm a Roman citizen, you're accepted. Okay? And so, that was why Apostle Paul was able to go to different places without having to get so much visa. Right? One time I went to Syria and I was stuck in the airport for 14 hours because I didn't have the right visa, because I have a US passport. They just don't like that blue passport. So they made me wait. They said, okay, take the passport. And they were speaking English. Okay, where are you from? And I'm from the United States, but I live in Korea. I'm visiting to visit some archaeology sites, excavation sites. Oh yeah? Okay, take the passport. And he said, wait. An hour passed, 2 hours passed, 3 hours. I went there. What's happening? Where's my passport? All of a sudden, they don't know how to speak English. Wow. They said, in their language, sit there and wait. That was 14 hours. And when you have those animosities between the nations, it's hard to go on mission trips even. But under Pax Romana, God allowed that to happen. God uses these nations. Although the Israelites had to go through much difficulty, God even uses the enemies for His work. Now, when Daniel knew all this, he received this revelation. And he was reading the Bible in Daniel chapter 9, and he realized it was about after 68 years. He read a passage in Jeremiah saying, 70 years. If you were Daniel, what would you have done? 2 more years and I go home, right? 2 more years. I would be happy, spreading the word, but Daniel wept and knelt on the ground and put ashes on him and he put on sackcloth and prayed. Why? He knew the time was coming, but his people were not ready. We wait for the coming of the Lord. But the better question is not when is He coming, but are we ready? Are there people like Daniel in Singapore that can really get on our knees and say, God, our people are not ready. But please save us because we are called by your name. And not only that, Daniel knew exactly what's happening. We'll turn to Ezra chapter 1, verse 1 and 2. Now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, this is Cyrus, right? In order to fulfill the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, so that he sent a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and also put it in writing, saying, Thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and has appointed me to build him a house in Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Isn't it a little bit weird? Cyrus is not a Jewish king. He doesn't believe in the Jewish God, our God, right? But he is confessing the Lord God of heaven has given me all the kingdoms. How is he confessing this? Why is he saying this? Is he Christian now? Does he believe in God? But he believes. He confesses it's the Lord who gave me this so that I can release you guys. Right? How did he know? How did he know? Who told him? It is written in Isaiah, let's turn to Isaiah, chapter 44, verse 28. Isaiah 44, 28. It is I who says of Cyrus, Isaiah was from 8th century BC. Right? And this is happening in 6th century, right? 538, 536, 37, they're being released, right? And so, about 200 years before Cyrus, God spoke through Isaiah. It is I who says of Cyrus, he is my shepherd, and he will perform all my desires, and he declares of Jerusalem, she will be built, and of the temple, your foundation will be laid. Chapter 45, verse 1. Thus says the Lord to Cyrus, his anointed, whom I have taken by the right hand, as to subdue the nations before him, and to loose the loins of kings, to open doors before him, so that gates will not be shut, and so on. Cyrus's confession in Ezra chapter 1 is basically off of this. It is the Lord who opened the gates for me. So Cyrus must have read Isaiah. How? Who gave him the Bible? Who was there? Daniel was there. How did Daniel know? How did Daniel know? See, Daniel was about 15 to 17, according to Edward Young and many other scholars. It was the Persians and the Babylonians started to train these smart young kids, young boys, of about 15 to 17. Especially when they take captives, they select the choicest ones and start training them to become their governors. And so Daniel must have been about 15 to 17. So when was he born? Daniel was about 15 to 17 when he was taken into captivity, and which was the first captivity, which was 605 BC. So when was he born, do you think? Plus 605 plus 17 is 622 BC. Right? What was happening in Israel? The kings were evil, right? They were not worshiping. But when he was born, 622 BC, something was happening. According to this chart is in book 5. So if you have book 5, you can open it up. Okay? See, 605 BC Nebuchadnezzar, right? And then first deportation was 605 BC. 605, first deportation. And 640, around 640 is when King Josiah started to reign. See here, King Josiah, 640. And according to 2 Kings chapter 22, verses 1 and 2, it was in his 18th year that he told he discovered the book from the temple, and he told the priest to start teaching the people. What year was that? He started reign at 640. It was in his 18th year of reign. 622. That's about when Daniel was born. Do you have goosebumps? When I first found this out, I said, wow, that's why we have to study the years. Right? When Daniel was born, King Josiah had made a decree for all the people to teach their children the Bible. And when Daniel was about 17 years old, he's learned from his parents. And even when he was taken away from his parents, nobody was there to tell him to go to church, but he still went, right? Isn't that what we're worried about? When our kids grow up, when they go away, will they still go to church and believe in God? Daniel was good. And not only that, he knew the Bible, and he must have told Cyrus, hey king, look at this Bible. It has your name in it. And this is what God says that you will do. Whether he wanted or not, he did it. And he confessed, it's the Lord God who made me do this. The lesson here, you can forget all these. The lesson here, we have to teach our children the Bible. That's the importance of educating our children. When they grow up, they might become the Daniel of the end time. Right? In the end, there has to be people like Daniel in every nation, in every department of the nation, every ministry. You know, MOE, MOM, all the ministries, that ministry I'm talking about. We have to have people of God planted there to do His work, to save this nation. I pray that your family members, your children, our children will be blessed like Daniel and become like Daniel, playing the role of God's true people of God. Amen.